Hi Forex traders, you're welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about something very powerful. I just feel I should be teaching on how to trade the NFP because today is the first Friday of the month of March and it's the non-farm payroll news event coming up. I think just about the 2:30 p.m. GMT plus 1. Convert that to your local time. That's the time we're anticipating the non-farm payroll news events. You could quickly check the Forex factory calendar just to, for you to get to see how that looks like on the economic calendar of events on Forex factory. The non-farm payroll is a news event that usually unfold first Friday of every month around the 2:30 p.m. the GMT plus 1, and usually when it's about time for the news, you're going to see a high level of volatility in the market. Price action is going to pose a speedy price delivery in the market, and in just a second price can present a very massive price delivery in hundreds of pips, and most times price is not going to respect your stop loss. So this is why we usually recommend that during the NFP week, after the Wednesday New York session of the NFP week, every trader should be on the sidelines, except if you're a very experienced trader. You shouldn't be found in any trade after the New York session of the Wednesday of the NFP week. All right, so you can see on the economic calendar, Friday 7th of March, 2:30 p.m. GMT plus 1, the non-farm payroll. It's actually a news event that shows us the unemployment rate or the employment rate in the United States of America, and that in itself usually comes with a high volatility. The market would usually not do anything after Wednesday, would go into consolidation, creating seek and destroy patterns, taking the buys when you are selling and taking your sell stops when you're buying. All right, so that's what usually happens. Okay, so previously we saw that the forecast, the previous news events came with about 143k. The forecast today is 159. So technically it's we're expecting a positive outcome. We're expecting an increase. That's what this means. Okay, the unemployment rate says previously was 4%, and then forecast is also saying 4%. That means nothing is going to change when it comes to the unemployment. But the employment change says previously we had 143,000 and we are forecasting that it's going to get to 159,000. So we may see some level of positive impact on the dollar index. All right, so quickly let's take a look at the dollar, especially the higher time frame, the monthly time frame, because the monthly time frame is where the drawn liquidity usually resides. I've always been saying this, that the higher time frame is the main driver of liquidity. Institutions would usually position their liquidity on the higher time frame. So this is the trading range that we are trading in. The high to the low price action has created shift of market structure bullish after taking the low here, giving us a bullish breaker. We see the dollar on the monthly time frame created a bullish breaker. And remember, for every external range liquidity taken, we would like to see price action trading to structure internal range liquidity, the fair value gaps, or the other blocks. So right now we see the dollar repricing into a discount fair value gap. When you measure the range there, there's a fair value gap right there, which is the drawn liquidity that we are approaching. And this is also looking like a balanced price range because we have an institutional order flow entry drill that's about to unfold. The fair value gap by the right, the fair value gap by the left. We'd like to see price action tap into this level before we anticipate a reaction to go long on the dollar. On the weekly time frame, you can clearly see the dollar this week, after trading into the bearish order block, has been selling. The bearish order block on the weekly time frame here, you see that buy candle that was traded through by consecutive sell candles. Price action, provided a resistance at that level. Price sold, and it's going to attack the old low there, which is the sell side liquidity pool residing at that level. There's also a fair value gap right there. There's also a bullish mitigation block right below here on the weekly time frame. The dollar can get as deep as this level, deep discount, or trade into this sell side liquidity pool and also that low and reprice into the internal range. But it's going to take time before that happens. But this week, again, if you look at the weekly price delivery, the weekly market profile, you would see that the bearish mitigation block on the daily time frame provided resistance for price action to sell on Monday. Price opened from the high of the week and it's been selling from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We've had sells on the dollar. This tells me that today we should anticipate a repricing into internal range to close the week, because we've had a whole 4 days of a sell price delivery. It makes sense for us to anticipate a buy side price delivery on Friday. It's simply the weekly market profile. We have always said price action would open on Monday and form the high of the week between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, with most times forming the high of the week on Tuesday, and price would distribute between the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And on Thursday, New York session, or Friday, we anticipate price action to create a repricing into the internal range of the week to cap the weekly price action. Okay, so what am I anticipating today? NFP. I'm anticipating that the dollar is going to take out that sell side liquidity pool, trade into that weekly fair value gap that we outlined, and it's going to trade back into the range and close inside the range. That's what I'm anticipating. Okay, so how am I going to approach this? How am I going to approach this price action on the 1 hour or the lower time frame to get an entry to buy? Okay, now I want you to take note that if you take note of Thursday, you would see that nothing happened on Thursday. This is why we caution that after the Wednesday, don't take trades, just let it be. You see Thursday price action didn't do anything significant. Then today, price just traded below yesterday's low, which is a Thursday price action. Price has taken out sell side liquidity pool below that. I would like to see the dollar tap into that monthly fair value gap, then create a cracking correlation on the lower time frame. So two things are involved. If I see the dollar get into this level before the NFP and it gives me a smart money divergence on the dollar index, the euro, and the GBP USD, especially on the 5 or 15 minutes time frame, I'm going to get an entry for a buy if the dollar trades into this level ahead of the NFP. I'm going to be looking for cracking correlation to get a buy on the dollar while I'm selling the euro, USD, and the pound dollar. All right. Now, if the dollar doesn't get into this point ahead of the NFP, then I would like to see the dollar reprice into the internal range that's been created already on the 1 hour. Then we are going to look for sells. We're going to look for sells. We're going to sell the dollar into the external range liquidity. We're going to sell the dollar into the external range low here, and also the draw liquidity on the monthly. We're going to sell the dollar into that level. So while we're still doing this, if this happens during the NFP or close to the time, let's say 30 minutes to NFP, prices are right inside the range, either at the fair value there with an old week in between, that is an IWA FED. I'd like to see price action trading to that level, create a cracking correlation on the lower time frames, 15 minutes. We need to see the dollar create something like this. For example, if the dollar gets here and creates higher high, all right, then the euro USD, the euro dollar, creates lower low. But again, the GBP USD created a failure swing, failing to take out that low. Then we buy the foreign currency, the euro dollar, the GBP USD, while we sell the dollar from this point into the next external range liquidity. This is how I trade the NFP using cracking correlation, using smart money divergence. All right, I'm looking for entries on the lower time frames, on the 15 minutes time frame ahead of the NFP, most times just an hour to the NFP or 30 minutes to the NFP. If I see a cracking correlation, that's the signature. It's an institutional signature that lets me know that price action is about to start selling or buying. Now, if we get to this level before the NFP, okay, you have to look for this smart money divergence just before the NFP, sometimes even 5 minutes to the news release. Price gets into that monthly drawn liquidity before NFP and creates something like this, lower low on the dollar. Then we see the euro dollar or the cable creating a cracking correlation, because on a normal day they're supposed to create higher high as the dollar is creating the lower low. Then we see the GBP USD failing to create higher high. That's a failure swing. We are going to sell the GBP USD using swing high formations, 3 candle price action. With the middle candle having the highest high, we sell the GBP USD while we buy a total soup buy on the dollar into the internal range so that we can close the week, because it's been an amazing week of selling the dollar and buying foreign currency. My friends, I hope you really understand what I just shared with you. I'm going to be watching what's going to happen in price action. If I get to see something amazing ahead of the NFP, and if I get to trade the NFP, I'm going to show you guys how I'm able to trade the NFP, post NFP commentary, just to be on the watch. Just make sure you are subscribed to this YouTube handle, turn up your notification bell so you stay updated every time I post a video. Check the description of this video. Join the Telegram community for free signals, free trading education, free content. You're going to learn a lot from the Telegram community. Then if you want to join me on one-on-one mentorship, check the description on this video. Reach out to my personal assistant for mentorship. My friends, until next time, I wish you good luck, good trading, stay safe.